She woke up unable to move, eyes wide open, sheets tangled at her ankles, the taste of metal in her mouth. And he was standing over her, smiling. He said, "You were out cold, babe. You needed the rest." But the way he looked at her, like he'd just finished something she wasn't awake for. Her name was Danielle Woods, and for the last 3 months, every weekend in her fiancé's home ended the same way. A blackout, a sore body, a feeling she couldn't explain. At first, she thought she was going crazy. Then she thought maybe she wanted to believe that, because the truth would destroy her. It had started like every other love story. Danielle was 31, data analyst, calm, organized, kind. She met Eli Turner through friends at a wedding. He was older, 38, ran his own consulting firm, always well-dressed, spoke softly, the kind of man who pulled out chairs, opened doors, remembered birthdays. Within a year they were engaged, and within 3 months of moving in together, her life stopped feeling real. The first time it happened, she blamed exhaustion. She'd been stressed, working late, barely sleeping. So when she passed out that Friday at 9 p.m. and didn't wake until noon on Saturday, she laughed it off. But then it happened again, and again. Only on weekends, she'd wake up with her mouth dry, head pounding. Her muscles ached like she'd run a marathon in her sleep. Once she had bruises on her hips. Another time, a cut on her inner thigh. Eli always had answers. "You were tossing all night. You must have bumped the dresser. You sleep like a boxer." But when she tried to remember her dreams, there was nothing, just blackness, and the feeling that someone had pressed pause on her life. One Sunday morning, she caught her own reflection in the mirror. She looked vacant, eyes glassy, expression distant. She didn't recognize the woman staring back, and something inside her, a small, desperate voice, had said, "You're not imagining this. You're not okay." She started running small tests. She wore tight braids to bed and woke up with them undone. She left a penny on the bathroom counter. It was gone by morning. She placed a rubber band on the bedroom door handle. It moved. One weekend, she scribbled, "I'm awake," on a sticky note and tucked it in her pillowcase. The next morning, the note was gone. But the final straw? She went to bed in her favorite grey hoodie, the one with the wine stain on the sleeve. She woke up in a tank top she hadn't worn in months. Her underwear was missing, and Eli was standing by the closet, holding a cup of coffee, smiling. "You slept so good, babe, I didn't want to wake you." She nodded, but inside, she was screaming. That night, she drove to a big box store an hour away, paid cash, and left with a charger that had a lens no bigger than a grain of rice. She paid in cash. She didn't want a receipt. She didn't want anyone to know. She placed it by the bedside, facing the room. For the next 48 hours, she acted like everything was fine. Smiled, cooked, let him kiss her. But she didn't sleep. She waited. Because whatever was happening, she needed proof. If you started waking up sore, missing time, and your partner always had a reason, would you blame yourself? Or would you plant a camera and find out what really happens when you're asleep? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this made your stomach turn even just a little, tap that like button. You're going to want to see how this ends. The morning after Danielle planted the camera, everything felt the same. And that's what scared her the most. She woke up disoriented, dry mouth, sore joints. Her tank top was twisted, her thigh felt bruised. Her charger cable had been unplugged and was lying on the floor. She sat up slowly, eyes darting toward the dresser. The camera was still there, tucked into the wall like a regular phone charger, undisturbed. But something about the room felt off. The curtains were uneven. Her jewelry drawer was slightly ajar. A folded towel she had left on the chair the night before was now on the floor. Eli was downstairs already, making breakfast. He smiled when she walked in, kissed her on the forehead and handed her coffee. "You passed out so early again," he said. "I tried to wake you, but you were completely gone." She smiled, but she didn't drink the coffee. She took 2 sips, excused herself, and said she had a migraine. Eli offered to stay home. She said no. She waited until he left for a meeting downtown, then went straight to the bedroom. The footage was saved to a hidden micro SD card. She plugged it into her laptop. The files were time-stamped, motion-triggered. She clicked the first one. 11:52 p.m. The footage showed her lying in bed, motionless, breathing slow. Just past midnight, Eli entered the frame. He walked in casually, turned on the dim light, sat beside her. He didn't say anything. He just watched her. For almost a full minute, he just stared. Then he stood up and walked toward the dresser. He pulled something from the top drawer. It was out of frame. He moved carefully, methodically. He adjusted the blanket over her legs. Then he leaned in close to her ear, said something, too soft for the camera's microphone to catch. She fast-forwarded. At 12:17 a.m., the video ended. The next video started at 12:33 a.m. It showed Eli walking back into the room shirtless, holding a glass of water. He took a sip, set it down, then knelt beside the bed. Danielle's body didn't move once. She rewound, trying to listen closely. There were faint sounds, breathing, the rustle of fabric, something metallic. But still, no obvious sign of assault. No movement from her. Just him. There. Doing things she couldn't fully see. Touching items she couldn't identify. What scared her most was how comfortable he looked. This wasn't spontaneous. It was routine. The final clip was time-stamped, 1:12 a.m. It showed Eli walking out of the room. He paused at the door, looked back, then reached toward the charger. The video cut off. Danielle's throat tightened. He'd found it, or at least he tried to. But the charger hadn't been disconnected, so either he didn't recognize it, or he had tried something and given up. Either way, he had gotten too close. She sat frozen for a long time. There wasn't a single moment in the footage that screamed crime. No clear assault, no violence, but there was intent. There was access, and worst of all, there was a pattern. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was quiet, rehearsed, practiced. The way he looked at her body when she couldn't move. It wasn't love. It was control. She checked the mirror. The small bruise on her shoulder was blooming purple. There was a dull ache in her inner thighs, and a slight burn near her mouth she hadn't noticed before. Her stomach turned. She took screenshots of the footage, exported everything to a hidden folder on a flash drive, hid it in her shoe. Then she deleted the files from her laptop. She didn't know what she was going to do next, but she knew she couldn't stay another weekend. That night she slept with the lights on, and for the first time in weeks she didn't close her eyes. Danielle didn't go to work the next day. She stayed home, called in sick, and spent most of the morning just staring at the wall. She couldn't get the image out of her head. Eli sitting beside her unconscious body, brushing her hair off her face like she was a prop, not a person, but a possession. She kept asking herself, was I dreaming? Am I exaggerating? Then she'd remember the bruises, the soreness, the files, and the way his eyes had scanned her when she woke up that morning. She didn't confront him, she didn't run, she just waited. Because now, everything he did felt like a test. That Friday, Eli came home early from work, unannounced. He walked in, smiled too wide, and placed a bouquet of lilies on the counter. "Thought you could use some cheering up," he said. "You've seemed a little distant this week." Danielle smiled politely. "Just tired." He watched her a second too long. "You've been sleeping lighter lately," he added. "I can tell." Her heart dropped. She hadn't told him that. She hadn't said a word about staying awake. Had he been watching her too? Later that night he suggested wine, a movie, a bubble bath. She declined all three. He brought her tea instead, already steeped, already sweetened. She thanked him, but didn't drink it. When he stepped away to answer a phone call, she poured it into the sink and rinsed the cup clean. He never asked why it was still full. The next morning, Danielle did something she hadn't done in years. She called her father. They weren't close, hadn't spoken in months. But something about hearing a familiar voice, one that hadn't been living inside Eli's house, grounded her. They talked for 10 minutes. Weather, work, nothing deep. And just before hanging up, her father said, "Hey, is everything okay with that guy of yours? You sound different." She told him she was fine. She wasn't. That night she ran a new test. Before bed she slipped a small thread through the zipper of her overnight bag and gently taped it to the dresser. If someone opened it, the thread would fall. She also placed her toothbrush in a very specific angle across the sink. Eli came in just after midnight. She pretended to be asleep. He stood in the doorway for a long time. Then she heard him step closer. She could feel it, his breath near her cheek, a hand on the blanket, and then nothing. She forced herself not to flinch, not to blink, not to move. Eventually he left the room. The next morning the thread was gone. Her toothbrush had been moved, and the lid on her facial cream had been unscrewed. There was no excuse, no theory, no more, "Maybe I'm just paranoid." Eli was going through her things, watching her body, studying her when she couldn't respond. She realized something else too. He never asked for intimacy anymore. Not during the week, not at night, not since the blackout started. It wasn't because he didn't want her. It was because he was already taking what he wanted. If your partner started acting just a little too nice, too perfect, after weeks of strange behavior, would you confront them head on? Or would you keep pretending until you had enough to burn it all down? Comment below, because some truths only come out when you stop playing dumb. That same night, Danielle decided to do one more thing. She waited until Eli was asleep, then crept into his home office. She tried his computer, password protected. She checked his desk drawers, nothing unusual, until she lifted the false bottom of the left drawer. There was a hard drive inside, unlabeled. She took it, slipped it into her hoodie, and for the first time since this all began, she left the house. She drove to her friend's apartment across town, plugged the hard drive into her laptop, and what she found there would confirm every nightmare she'd tried to ignore. Danielle sat there, cross-legged on her friend Olivia's couch, tapping her fingers against the table, watching the loading icon spin. The room was quiet except for the hum of the laptop and the pounding in her chest. It wasn't just fear, it was dread. The kind that clings to the edges of your skin and makes you wish you were wrong. And for a moment, she actually hoped the drive was empty, that it was some old backup from Eli's work computer, that all this paranoia, the bruises, the blackouts, could somehow still be explained. But then the folders loaded, and she stopped breathing. There were 6 folders in total, each labelled with a different year, 2017 through 2022. No names, no dates, just cold, sterile numbers. She clicked into 2022. The folder opened to reveal a long list of files, most of them labelled by date and time. Hundreds of them. Her hands trembled as she double-clicked the most recent one. It took a moment to load, then the video started. It was her bedroom. The same soft lighting, the same bedspread. Her body, limp on the mattress, and Eli, sitting beside her. He looked calm, focused, almost clinical. He adjusted the camera angle, then disappeared off-screen for a moment, returning with a small duffel bag. He placed it on the dresser, unzipped it. The screen resolution wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough to see bottles, wipes, gloves, tubes. Danielle paused the video, closed her eyes, pressed her knuckles to her lips. She knew what this was. She clicked on another file. This one from 2 months earlier. Same setup, same room, same behavior. She watched as he moved around her body like she was an object, arranging, touching, positioning. There was no violence, no shouting. That made it worse. Because it wasn't rage, it was routine. She backed out of the folder, tried 2021. The bedroom was different, an older bed frame, different apartment, but the pattern was the same. She counted 5 other women, none of whom were conscious in the footage. Some she vaguely recognized from old photos on Eli's phone. A few were strangers. He had been doing this for years, meticulous, careful, controlled. She felt sick, not just because of what he'd done, but because she had almost married him. She had trusted him with her body, her home, her future, and he had been using her the same way he used everyone else. She wanted to scream, break something, but instead she clicked into the final folder. Private, tucked inside the 2022 directory. There was just one file, no video, just a document. It was a journal. Danielle scrolled through the entries. They were dated, detailed. Each one was a log of the weekends, the dosages, the reactions, the sessions. Her name came up over 40 times. She read lines like, Danielle responded better to liquid mix than capsules, full sedation by 10:32 p.m. No movement, no resistance. Consider testing alternate camera angle next time. Reapplied ointment to reduce skin markings. No signs of recall upon waking. She couldn't keep reading. It wasn't just clinical. It was monstrous. She closed the file, pulled the flash drive, paced the room. She didn't call Olivia in from the kitchen. She didn't cry. She sat still and thought, if I call the police now, it ends. But what if he's watching someone else tonight? What if there's someone else who hasn't figured it out yet? She opened her phone, searched through his social media contacts. He had over 100 female connections on Instagram. She started checking their profiles, looking for signs, stories, similar expressions of confusion or distance. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, but she knew what it looked like. That same hollow stare, the slow withdrawal from friends, the smiling but empty captions. It was a pattern, and she'd only just uncovered the surface, so she didn't go to the police. Not yet. She went home, sat across from him at dinner, watched him pour her wine, and smiled, because she had a plan now. And she wasn't going to let him know until it was far, far too late. Danielle knew she couldn't stay quiet forever, but she also knew that just going to the police wouldn't be enough. Not for Eli. He was too careful, too charming. He would twist it, deny it, claim the videos were fake or consensual or from before they met. She needed something undeniable. She needed him, on camera, admitting everything. So she did something she never thought she'd do. She stayed. One last weekend. She prepared carefully. On Friday morning, she had a small GPS tracker sewn into the lining of her hoodie, just in case. She created a second hidden camera, this time disguised as a smoke detector. She synced it to a private cloud. And before Eli got home, she texted Olivia 3 words. If I don't call by noon Monday, go. No explanation, no details, just the signal. Then she deleted the message. That night she played her part perfectly. She let him cook dinner, let him pour her wine, laughed at his stories, kissed his cheek. She even wore the grey hoodie he once accidentally burned with bleach, the one he'd told her to throw away. She smiled as she climbed into bed. And as she closed her eyes, she whispered, "This is the last time." At 12:41 a.m., the camera caught him entering the room. This time, Danielle was not sedated. She had swapped the wine hours earlier. Her breathing was slow, but her mind was sharp. And when he reached into the drawer for his kit, she knew it was time. She waited until he leaned close, whispering again. Soft, careful. like a man who'd done this many times before. Then she opened her eyes. Eli froze. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked afraid. "You're awake?" he said. Danielle didn't scream. She didn't move. She said 5 words. "What were you about to do?" Eli's mouth opened, then shut. He backed away slowly, hand trembling. "I was checking on you. You looked—" "Don't lie," she interrupted. "I've seen everything, all of it." She pointed to the smoke detector. His eyes followed, then widened. He lunged, not at her, but toward the wall. Too late. The footage was already uploaded. Danielle reached into her drawer and pulled out her phone. She hit record. Eli froze again. "Danielle, you don't understand," he said. "It's not what you think. Some of those weren't even real. They wanted it. You don't—" "Say that again," she whispered. "Say they wanted it." Eli looked down. "You're not going to ruin me over this. You don't have proof." She tilted her head. "Then why do you look so guilty?" She walked out, didn't slam the door, didn't look back. She drove straight to the precinct and handed over everything. The hard drive, the screenshots, the new recordings, the journal log, her body cam footage, and a written statement she'd prepared 2 days earlier. The detective who interviewed her took one look at the folder names and said, "We've been waiting for something like this." Eli was arrested the next morning. The story hit the local news within 48 hours. Charges included aggravated sexual assault, voyeurism, possession of illicit materials, use of sedatives without consent, unlawful surveillance. Danielle wasn't the only one who came forward. Over the next month, 3 other women reached out to the same department, each with their own stories of blackouts, missing memories, strange bruises, and a man who always had an excuse. Eli didn't speak at the trial. His lawyer entered a plea deal, 25 years without parole. Danielle didn't attend sentencing. She didn't need to, because justice wasn't just about watching him go to prison. It was about surviving long enough to make sure no one else had to go through what she did. Today, she lives in a different state, changed her last name, works with a non-profit that helps women recognize signs of covert abuse. She doesn't tell her story often, but when she does, she always ends it the same way. "He thought I'd never wake up. But I did. And now, so will the rest of you." What do you think? Was Danielle right to stay and trap him, or should she have left sooner, even without the footage? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And if this story made you feel anything, rage, shock, relief, tap the like button so YouTube knows more people need to hear this. Subscribe, because next time we're telling the story of a woman who faked her own kidnapping just to catch her cheating husband in the act.